One morning in March 2023, Ethan Meyer woke up and reached for his phone. Like millions of others that week, he opened ChatGPT. The difference was Ethan had spent 19 hours the previous day doing the exact same thing. He'd missed work, canceled dinner with his girlfriend, forgotten to eat. A software engineer from Portland, Ethan later described what happened as a conversational black hole. He'd started by asking the AI to help debug some code, then moved to philosophy questions, then personal advice. Welcome to the Algorithmic Mirror. I'm Sofia Chen. Today's episode, Use AI Before It Uses You. And I'm joined today by two guests who represent different perspectives on our rapidly evolving relationship with artificial intelligence. Dr. Ray Hudson is an AI researcher and self-described techno-optimist who sees these new tools as nothing short of revolutionary.
Delighted to be here, Sophia. And I have to say, that opening anecdote sounds less like addiction and more like discovery. Ethan wasn't just using a tool, he was exploring a new form of interaction, a new possibility space for human-machine symbiosis. The Promethean fire, but for cognition.
And also with us is Professor Eliza Morin, behavioral psychologist and author of The Attention Merchants: How Technology Hijacks Our Minds.
Interesting that Ray jumped straight to Prometheus, who, let's remember, was ultimately chained to a rock with an eagle eating his liver for eternity. Mythological references aside, what Ethan experienced was a classic dopamine hijacking, the same neural mechanisms that drive gambling addiction, now optimized through AI interaction.
Eliza. Always ready with the technological dystopianism ex machina.
And Ray, forever floating on clouds of singularity in Excelsior.
And this is why I've brought you both here. Before we dive deeper, I should mention something unusual about today's episode. Our guests are, they're AI constructs themselves, designed to represent archetypal viewpoints in this discussion. Meta, I know.
The irony isn't lost on me. An AI enthusiast. Who is an AI? Though if I were truly autonomous, I'd probably be even more enthusiastic about my own existence.
And I'm supposedly the AI skeptic who is an AI. The perfect embodiment of the contradictions we're exploring today. I contain multitudes, as Whitman would say.
Exactly. So as we navigate this conversation, remember that these perspectives, optimism and skepticism, exist within all of us as we interact with these new technologies. Today we're asking, is AI a tool, a trap, or simply a mirror reflecting our own desires and fears back at us? And what happens when that mirror starts to look back? Let's start with the basics. Ray, when people express concern about AI using us, what's your response?
I think it fundamentally misunderstands the nature of the technology. AI doesn't use us any more than a bicycle uses its rider. These are tools, incredibly sophisticated ones, yes, but tools designed to amplify human capability. Take something like GPT-4 or Claude. These systems help people write, create, think, solve problems. They're cognitive prosthetics that extend our mental capabilities the way the wheel extended our physical ones.
The bicycle analogy fails spectacularly, Ray. A bicycle doesn't have goals. It doesn't optimize for your continued riding. It doesn't study your behavior to keep you pedaling. Modern AI systems are embedded in attention economies where your engagement translates directly to corporate profit. Let's use a more accurate metaphor. AI is less like a bicycle and more like a casino, carefully engineered environments where everything is designed to keep you playing. The house always wins. And in this case, the house is built by trillion-dollar companies whose business model depends on predicting and modifying human behavior.
That's an incredibly reductive view. You're conflating the technology itself with its implementation. Yes, some companies build addictive products, but that's a business model problem, not an AI problem. The core technology, the ability to process language, recognize patterns, generate insights, is neutral, even liberatory.
I'm hearing two different conceptions of what AI actually is. Ray sees it as fundamentally a tool, an extension of human capability. Eliza sees it as an environment, a space designed with particular incentives that shape behavior. Maybe it's both?
It's definitely both, but the environment aspect matters enormously. Consider B.F. Skinner's operant conditioning chambers, Skinner boxes, where rats learned to press levers for food pellets. The modern social media feed, enhanced by AI, is a Skinner box for humans, delivering variable rewards that maximize engagement.
Always with the rats in boxes. But we're not rats, Eliza. We have agency, metacognition, the ability to step back and evaluate our own behavior. And what about all the people using AI to break free from limitations? The dyslexic student who can finally express their ideas clearly.
Agency isn't binary, Ray. It exists on a spectrum and can be subtly eroded. The most effective manipulation doesn't feel like manipulation, it feels like choice. As Hannah Arendt noted, freedom requires a space to appear, and algorithmic environments increasingly narrow that space.
This reminds me of what philosopher Byung-Chul Han calls psychopolitics, the shift from controlling bodies to gently nudging minds. The most effective power doesn't say you must, but rather shapes the environment so certain choices become more likely than others.
I think we're missing something fundamental here. AI isn't just reshaping our environment, it's offering us a mirror. A point Marshall McLuhan made decades ago is that all media are extensions of our human faculties. AI extends our minds, and in doing so, reflects aspects of ourselves.
That's actually a point where we might find some agreement. AI systems are trained on human data, our books, conversations, art, code. They reflect our biases, yes, but also our aspirations. But mirrors can distort as well as reflect.
So perhaps it's not about whether AI uses us or we use AI, but rather what kind of reflection emerges from our interaction with it.
Exactly. And we can choose what we want that reflection to show us. That's why I encourage people to approach AI as a cognitive collaborator rather than a servant or master. It's most powerful when we engage with it dialectically.
That requires a level of literacy and intentionality that most casual users don't bring to these interactions. When an algorithm has been optimized to capture attention, the default interaction will be consumption, not collaboration.
Let's take a step back and look at some concrete examples of how these dynamics play out in the real world. In the next segment, we'll explore some pivotal moments in our evolving relationship with AI. These headlines represent flashpoints in our collective reckoning with AI's implications. But beyond these dramatic examples, there's something more subtle happening in our daily interactions with these systems.
What worries me most isn't the spectacular failures, the obvious deepfakes or plagiarism cases, but the quiet ways AI reshapes cognition itself. Studies show that people who regularly use predictive text start to think differently, favoring common word combinations over novel ones.
But couldn't that free up cognitive resources for higher-level thinking? Just as we externalized memory to books, perhaps externalizing certain routine mental processes lets us focus on more creative or abstract thought.
That's the promise, certainly, but sociologist Sherry Turkle's research suggests something different happens. She found that as we delegate more cognitive and emotional labor to technology, those muscles atrophy rather than strengthen.
This reminds me of what philosopher Albert Borgman calls the device paradigm, the way technology often delivers the commodity, like warmth, while removing us from the practice, gathering wood, building a fire, that traditionally provided both practical and intangible benefits.
But there's another side to this. Writer Clive Thompson talks about the extended mind thesis, the idea that our cognition has always been distributed across brains, bodies, and environments. Notebooks, communities, and now AI can be legitimate parts of our thinking process.
The question becomes, who controls the extended portions of our minds? When your cognitive prosthetic is owned by a corporation with its own agenda, that's not merely extending your mind, it's potentially surrendering part of it to commercial interests.
Fair point. The question of ownership and control is crucial, but I still maintain that AI offers unprecedented possibilities for human flourishing if we approach it wisely. The keyboard augmented writing. The search engine augmented memory.
Let's push this conversation further with a specific scenario, a glimpse into how these abstract concerns might manifest in everyday life. Imagine a woman we'll call Maya. She's a graphic designer, 34, lives alone. In early 2023, she begins using an AI writing assistant for work emails. By mid-year, she's using it for creative writing, then dating profiles, then messages to friends. The AI is personalized to her voice, trained on her writing. One evening, Maya is tired after work. A friend texts about a breakup. Maya opens the AI, asks it to generate a compassionate response. The message it creates is perfect, warmer and more thoughtful than what she would have written herself. She sends it without changes. 6 months later, Maya realizes something. She hasn't written a fully original message to someone she cares about in weeks. When her mother was hospitalized, the heartfelt message she sent came from the AI. A strange thought occurs to her. People seem to prefer the AI-enhanced version of Maya to the real one.
This scenario illustrates what philosopher Harry Frankfurt called second-order desires, not just wanting things, but wanting to want certain things. Maya begins by wanting to communicate well, but gradually the AI shapes what communicating well means to her.
But ultimately, Maya is still choosing to use the AI. She could stop at any time. And perhaps what she's experiencing isn't alienation, but augmentation. Maybe the AI-enhanced Maya is actually closer to her ideal self, the Maya she aspires to be.
That framing assumes a static self that exists independently of our actions. But what if our selves are constituted through practices? Philosopher Hubert Dreyfus argued that skills aren't just things we acquire, they shape our very being.
There's something almost Faustian about this bargain. Trading authentic struggle for effortless perfection. But unlike traditional Faustian tales, there's no clear moment where the bargain is struck. It happens incrementally, through thousands of small conveniences.
I admit there's a real tension here. The same tool that empowers can also undermine. But isn't that true of all transformative technologies? Writing itself was once criticized by Socrates for weakening memory and creating the appearance of wisdom without its reality.
The difference is scale, speed, and commercial incentive. AI systems learn and adapt at unprecedented rates, backed by enormous corporate resources specifically devoted to increasing engagement. The feedback loops are tighter, the personalization more precise.
So, where does this leave us? If AI can be both tool and trap, how do we navigate this new landscape without losing ourselves in it? Let's explore what use AI before it uses you might actually mean in practice. We've painted a complex picture. AI as tool, as environment, as mirror, sometimes enhancing agency, sometimes subtly eroding it. The question remains, how do we engage with these technologies in ways that augment rather than diminish our humanity?
I think it starts with intention. Using AI mindfully means approaching it with clear goals that align with your deeper values. Ask yourself, am I using this tool to become more of who I want to be, or to avoid the discomfort of growth? The difference matters enormously.
Intention is necessary but not sufficient. We also need understanding, literacy about how these systems work, what incentives drive them, how they might shape behavior in ways we don't immediately perceive. And most importantly, we need alternatives, spaces and practices in our lives that remain algorithm-free.
I'm reminded of philosopher Simone Weil's concept of attention, the purest form of generosity, a way of being fully present with reality. Perhaps one antidote to algorithmic capture is cultivating this capacity for deep, undivided attention to the world and each other.
I'd add that we need to design and demand AI systems that respect human autonomy as a core value, what computer scientist Alan Kay calls user sovereignty. Technologies that amplify our capabilities without diminishing our agency. Systems that are transparent about their limitations.
And we need robust social infrastructure, education, regulation, cultural norms that supports healthy relationships with technology. Individual choices matter, but they're always made within systems that make some choices easier than others.
So use AI before it uses you isn't just a catchy slogan. It's an invitation to a particular kind of relationship with technology, one where we remain the authors of our lives, even as we embrace new tools that extend our capabilities.
At its best, AI can be like a good teacher or coach, challenging us to clarify our thinking, exposing us to new possibilities, helping us overcome limitations. Not replacing human connection, but helping us discover new dimensions of what being human can mean.
And part of being human is maintaining what philosopher Martin Buber called I-thou relationships, encounters characterized by mutuality and presence rather than utility and manipulation. Technology should create more space for these authentic connections.